What's up, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of For the People podcast. And of course, I am, as always, your humble host, Niko House. Today, we have a very special show, and I have a very special guest, the esteemed author, journalist, political analyst, one-time professor. He's been on television. He's been on the radio. I mean, he's done everything there is to do, and is continuing to do it at the highest level. I would like to welcome everybody. I would like to welcome to the show, Dr. Wilmer Leon. Thank you very much for joining. Give me 1 second and pull you up, and you are live, baby. What's going on, Doc?
Hey, man. Everything's going well. Good afternoon, or greetings to all y'all around the world. And my brother, thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate it. Two things. One, I am currently a professor.
Oh, you still? Oh, I didn't know you're still teaching. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm at Morgan State University in Baltimore. And
awesome.
Yeah. So we're wrapping up the semester. Great group of kids. I'm really impressed with Morgan and the students that are there. They've got some. We're gonna be okay.
That's dope. What class are you teaching? So everybody, in case anybody around the area is thinking about wanting to take a class out there with you.
Well, I've just finished 2 sections of American government and 1 section of international law, and next semester I'm teaching American government, international law, and constitutional law.
That's dope. That's awesome, man. What a time to be alive. What a time to be a professor, huh?
That it is. I am never at a loss for something to speak about.
Yeah, that is for sure. Well, once again, I want to say I appreciate you coming on the show. This is actually the first time that you've actually been on my show. I've always been on one of your shows, so it's good to have you on this time. And we have a lot of stuff to talk about. Yemen managed to penetrate the Iron Dome, which is seeming more like a paper mache dome at this point, more than the Iron Dome. There were massive protests for Ibrahim Traore, and Nigeria actually ended up punishing people for supporting him, which is kind of interesting. We'll talk about that. And also, there was a bill removed from the schedule this week that would have ultimately ended up punishing people for being anti-Israel or supporting any boycotts against Israel. So we're going to talk about all that. First thing I want to knock out is this protest, or the crackdown on the protest, rather, in Nigeria. And I want to talk about this, even though the protests were October the 30th. For those of you who don't know, there were a lot of protests. There were protests all over Africa, but there were also protests from the diaspora in France, England. There were some in Jamaica. There were some in the United States. So, it was huge. And this is the first time that I feel like we've seen something like this, where an African leader had so much widespread support in such an organized fashion as a response to an attempt to fearmonger against him. Mm-hmm. Usually we see the contrary. The protests happen because people are calling for the leader to be removed. And so this was definitely unique. Let me bring up this article for you guys. This was in the Business Insider.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it, okay? Cool. All right. So Nigeria's secret police clamps down on rally for Burkina Faso's Traore, arrests organizers. Nigeria's Department of State Services has arrested Marxist activist and leader of the Talakawa Parliament, Comrade Kola Adukapi, over his involvement in organizing a rally in support of Burkina Faso's junta leader, Captain Ibrahim Traore. The planned rally in support of Burkina Faso's leader, Captain Traore, which was intended as a Pan-African solidarity demonstration, has sparked controversy and raised concerns amongst authorities about its potential to incite unrest. An interview with Sahara reporters, a source close to Idakpayi, shared the details of his arrest. He had organized a solidarity rally, but a day before the event, the commissioner of the police contacted him for a meeting and urged him to cancel the protest. He agreed and directed his team to call off the rally. However, the DSS and police officers later raided his office, forcibly entered and arrested 6 people, while 4 were released. Idokpayi and 1 other individual were detained. So what do you make about this? Because this isn't, I mean, we're used to seeing crackdown on protests, I guess, in the US and generally around the world. But I feel like this is a unique situation because it's Nigeria, right? And we understand right now there's this massive wave of support coming from across all of Africa and specifically West Africa. But Nigeria seems to still be pushing back in a way that benefits the West instead of really even benefiting themselves. Because in my opinion, this doesn't even benefit Nigeria to go against Ibrahim Traore in this fashion.
Well, I think there are a couple of sentences in this article that, for me, are incredibly telling. They say the rally, according to its organizers, was part of a broader Pan-African effort to support Traore's resistance against French neo-colonialism in West Africa. Recent acts of aggression targeting Sahel nations have triggered a wave of solidarity across the continent, with thousands rallying in support of Burkina Faso. When you were on my show last week, you were very clear and astute as always in terms of highlighting the repercussions of this and how Traore's success is now expanding beyond Burkina Faso. And that, to me, is really the fear that has been instilled in the minds of the West. They do not want to see this replicated, but unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be able to tamp it down.
It don't look like it. I mean, here's one of the protests. This is actually in Burkina Faso. And if you see, do you notice something about this protest? You notice something about those flags there?
Yes.
Doc?
Yes.
You see some flags from Russia.
Yes.
In there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, we're used to seeing protests in this manner against something. But when you see protests like this in support of something, the West is shook. Michael Langley is shook.
He failed at his job, but he failed at his job.
Yeah.
That was an abysmal failure. He was trying to drum up support to take this man down, and now he might be the most popular politician in the entire world, which, you know, I feel like is quite a feat considering Africa is usually kind of in the background. Whatever happens there, positive or negative, oftentimes falls into the background. And that's not a good thing because Africa affects so much of the world.
Right.
And this guy, they felt pressured, in my opinion, once again, to say his name. That didn't come from nowhere. There's a reason, like I said, they didn't say they didn't talk about, at least at length, the president of Mali or the president of Niger, or excuse me, the leader of Niger even. They talked about Niger whenever they conquered it, but they didn't talk about really the leaders involved directly, because obviously giving attention to them could drum up and galvanize support for them. But it seems like Ibrahim has left them no choice. So where look at this. This is a diaspora. This is the diaspora right now. This is it. This is on April 30th. People in the streets.
So as we sit and look at the United States as the failing empire that it has become, you have to ask yourself, are those in control of the empire, when they see this, what do they see? And what I mean by that is, do the Michael Langleys of the world and those that are pulling his strings, do they say, we've got to go in and stamp this out? Or do they say, we got to figure out a way to work with this? Because the natural inclination of the empire is, hey, let's get all our assets on a conference call and let's figure out how we're going to stamp this out. That I think is the typical normally anticipated response. If they were wise, which we know they're not, they would say, if we try to do something to this, it's only going to exacerbate the situation. We need to figure out how to work with this. Unfortunately, their arrogance will not allow them to do that.
Yeah, honestly, their pocketbooks won't allow them to do it either, right? I think that, so I had David Hundeyin on yesterday, and he was talking about how there are European oil refineries that have had to shut down because of some of the stuff that's been happening in Africa, and they don't have any answers. They don't, like, Europe it's falling short. I mean, we all know how much Niger relied on energy that came out of, not Niger, excuse me, France relied on energy that came out of Niger. I mean, really all three, but specifically Niger. So that coalition alone is killing one of the greatest colonial powers in Western Europe. So, like, imagine the rest of the world that's been relying in one form or another on the Congo, for example. I keep saying, eventually, as this coalition grows and people seem to be out in the street demanding that this coalition grows amongst where other African countries join, eventually it's going to get to the point where they're like, y'all going to keep your hands off of the Congo, or we going to do something about it. And they've proven, right? Because this isn't just a country that took over its government and then subsequently France, ECOWAS, and NATO were able to take it back, because that's traditionally what we've seen. This is 2-3 years now. They kicked out France in all three countries. They kicked out NATO in all three countries. They then subsequently tried to put terrorists in these countries to fight and take the governments back, or at least destabilize the governments enough so that the West can come back in. It's not working because the countries are working as a unit now to repel those forces. So this isn't the same as 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
We're seeing something completely different. And I don't know if they can survive it economically, in which is like, but it's their fault, right? It's their fault that they set themselves up like this.
And also because both China and Russia are now in different positions, and they are in very, very, very strong positions to support and defend if necessary. And those two entities are also now working in concert. And also then from a sheer relationship perspective, you throw in the BRICS nations, and so from an economic stability perspective, from a trade perspective, from a currency perspective, there is a very, very bright future here for all of these countries.
All of them. All of them.
And this, to a great degree, is in response to the United States just foolish mistakes based upon its arrogance and its failure to realize that we now find ourselves, we are no longer in a unipolar hegemonic world. We are in a multipolar world, and they're doing everything in their power to resist that reality. But the sun's coming up. And no matter what you do, no matter how long you keep your eyes closed, pull your shades down, put your sunglasses on, the sun will rise. And this is what they need to. The sun is rising, and they can't do anything about it.
I mean, Marco Rubio admitted that the United States has to change the way it does business internationally because we're in a multipolar world. I actually was extremely surprised to hear him acknowledge that. But it doesn't seem as if the rest of the U.S. government is ready to act upon that realization.
How long ago did you hear him say that?
That was right. I mean, what, a month or so after they got elected, right? A month or so after he became Secretary of State, he admitted this. He said, we can't go to war with China. Either we need to avoid it at all costs. He said that.
I know.
We can't go to war with Russia.
He hadn't said it since.
But he had exactly.
And he also said, you remember when he said that the conflict in Ukraine was a proxy war.
Yep.
But he hasn't said it since.
I find it interesting because that was probably one of the most salient interviews that Marco Rubio has ever given, to the point where I'm like, damn, if he actually continues on this type of path as Secretary of State, like, he would probably be the best Secretary of State we've ever had, which is not saying much, but just the acknowledgement of the world that we're living in right now would be better than what we've had. But it looks like the rest of the administration, of course, or really the powers that be, because we know this administration is not in control of anything they're doing, which is probably why all of their decisions look so sporadic and out of nowhere. So they look like they were like, hey, man, shut up with all that multipolar stuff, guy. Stop that.
and to me, some further evidence of that was the posture and the body language when Zelensky came to the Oval Office and Lil Marco was sitting next to J.D. Vance, and Lil Marco looked as though he was at the wrong table at Thanksgiving. Somebody told, no, man, you got to go to the kiddies table, son. You're out here with the grown folks spilling Kool-Aid on the table.
I ain't trying to eat the ribs. Yeah, ribs for grown folks. Ribs ain't for kids. Which I find because that's the total opposite of what we saw from the last Secretary of State. The last Secretary of State was basically running the show, right? Like under Biden, Blake was basically running the show. So it's like it's almost as if, to some degree, maybe Marco Rubio was being punished because he's like, hey, bro, you need to calm down.
When was the last time you heard him say that?
Yeah,
because I think he got one of these. Son, you bet not. You bet not.
Stop with all that. Hey, yeah. But what's funny is Marco Rubio, because so during that interview, what he had said was, after he had gotten the information that he had received once he became Secretary of State, which I found interesting, he realized that everyone who had been calling themselves an expert in the ones making the decisions actually had no idea what they were talking about, which meant he got this info, which probably means that he was probably more ignorant than. And I thought that he was being ignorant on purpose, but there's a good chance, considering you know how academics are. There's a lot of times they're stupid, and people don't realize. They think just because you can be a congressperson, that means you're intelligent. It's not normally the case. So when he got this information, he's like, oh, if we don't change course now, we're screwed. And he actually tried to adjust course, and it seems like once again, it seems like he was punished for it. And I feel like, so going back to Nigeria. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the president, Tinubu, but this guy, I mean, they literally called him the Godfather, bro. They called him the Godfather because he's so corrupt.
Right.
The dude falsified his college degree from the U.S. and the U.S. actually knows it. And somebody actually tried to get a FOIA report regarding all this stuff that he was involved in. And the U.S., a U.S. politician, I can't remember his name, actually got directly involved in denying the FOIA report because the U.S. helped him get to the position that he's in right now.
He's a stone gangster.
Yeah, for real. That's basically, I mean, he was literally, apparently he was like helping move drugs. He was trafficking drugs while he was in the U.S. in Chicago.
Right.
Yeah. Dude is like, and he somehow becomes president of Nigeria. Now, what I find interesting about this is, so you crack down on the protest. The organizer actually yields and allows, like, okay, cool. I don't want any problems. We won't do the protest. And you still go in and arrest this man. What exactly do you think that's going to do? Because Nigerians, my friend David, who's Nigerian, he came on the show yesterday. He's always talking about how Nigerians are far too passive in the way they allow Western imperialists to control the narrative, to control their country, and allow it will really uplift these corrupt politicians like Tinubu. And it's something like that could ultimately end up driving a spark into them that would make them rebel and revolutionize. What do you think about that?
I think that's the greatest fear that the United States has with the rise of Traore, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. as
It's
well.
French, so who knows?
There you go. As well as Mali and Niger. And when I said that the U.S. picks up the phone and calls its allies and rallies its allies, Tinubu is the guy they called. That's the ally that they called and said, we got a problem and we need you to fix it. And
but it's interesting that it's in Nigeria that they did that, right? It's like, because they know if Nigeria becomes part of this coalition, it could be, it's over. That's it.
And
that's
nobody knows that better than Tinubu. I don't think anybody has a better grasp on that reality than he does.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because if he gets out, like he's done. Like
so,
the people.
So now he's got to figure out. He's got to, check the wind and put his ear to the ground and figure out. So how am I going to play this? Because if I become too repressive, they're going to string me up and burn me, not in effigy, set my behind on fire.
Yeah. Yeah. Because those Western states have actually made it a point to engage in reconciliation for those who've assassinated their prior leaders to get accountability. So,
or does he continue along the path and keep siding with the United States, which is a bad bet? That's a bad bet. So he might want to check his Swiss bank accounts and move some money around so that if he has to get out of town, the U.S. hasn't put the kibosh on his money.
Yeah.
He might want to move, put some money in his wife's name or do something.
Hey, you might want to move some of that to Bitcoin. You might want to get a crypto wallet or something. You know what I find interesting, and no one has made this comparison yet, but it might be because Tinubu is kind of kept under wraps as far as the narrative is concerned with Nigeria. But Tinubu is in a very similar situation to Zelensky right now. They've launched terrorist operations out of Nigeria, out of a base in Nigeria, a military base in Nigeria against those Western states, so those Western countries. So he's in a very similar situation as Zelensky. It's just that, of course, him being African, or just the situation being about Africa in general, he doesn't get as much attention. Okay. But he's just as important in a sense that they need him as a proxy. They need him to crack down on any type of revolution. Because once again, this is Nigeria, guys. I need y'all to understand something. Nigeria is not small. Nigeria has 200 million people. Okay, Nigeria has a labor force. They also have a unique amount of Western educated individuals who understand both African and Western politics, or really white Western European Anglo politics, basically. So they're uniquely positioned, uniquely networked, and uniquely prepared to contribute to this African revolution, if you will, probably more than any other country in the area. And so if Nigeria were to realize its potential, get Tinubu out, and not only get Tinubu out, but kick out France and the US and join this, it could be, I mean, you're talking about something that that's a new world we're living in.
Well, and there's also something else that you didn't mention from a geographic perspective. It has a coastline.
Yep.
It's not landlocked. So when you start talking about the labor force and you start talking about the resources and you talk about the countries that it borders, I don't think it doesn't directly border Burkina Faso, but there's not a lot of space between them.
Not a lot, yeah, exactly. It's very easy. I mean, yeah, that's how they're launching. That's why they just chose to launch operations from Nigeria against Burkina Faso, because there's not a lot of space between them. So
there's not a lot of space between them. So when you throw a coastline into the mix, and so I say all that to say that if Nigeria were to become one, let's just even say sympathetic towards. We don't even have to put it in if it joins the alliance. If it just becomes sympathetic towards the alliance, oh man, now you have something that is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, even if they just become autonomous, right? Like even if they just become autonomous,
we won't try to overthrow your government. Just say that.
Yeah, exactly. Right? If they become autonomous, if they choose to take control of their government, they wouldn't even have to join that alliance. They could just say, we're going to do what's in our best interest.
Right.
And no one's going, and that is enough. That is enough to change the tide. And I mean, considering that, once again, I just feel like it doesn't get mentioned enough that it's not like these three countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, like overthrew their governments, and France and NATO and the US haven't tried to take the governments back.
Right.
The problem is that they did try to take them back. They haven't been successful, and to be completely honest, NATO was overstretched at the moment between the war with Russia, dealing with everything they're dealing with Israel, right? Because now we know what's going on with that. They can't, for some reason, they can't even hold off Yemen at this point. NATO can't. So how are you going to deal with a potential coalition? Well, this coalition with the three countries that they haven't been able to deal with all the military might that they've had, and they're relatively new governments, right? These are relatively new, quote unquote, politicians who are learning how to govern in a way that benefits their nations, build a coalition that will outlast the leadership of those nations currently, and then also repel imperialism, right? That's something like this is a 3-year project, basically, or 2.5-year project, and they're winning. I don't know, like this is once again, this is unheard of. This is unheard of. We've seen Lumumba, but he was isolated. Mm-hmm. We saw Thomas Sankara, who was I think he was the original. He's the person who named Burkina Faso what it's become named today. Mm-hmm. We've seen Gaddafi, but they were all isolated, mm-hmm. and before the era of social media.
Right.
So what we're seeing now is we're seeing they're not isolated. They're working together. They have we just saw coordinated protests in favor of African leaders. And now everybody is paying attention. And I mean, I know that's going to sound kind of crude to some degree, but it's just the way the world works. There are now people who are picking up on the algorithm. Oh, wow, talking about Ibrahim Traore actually will get me views. So now it's become financially beneficial for these independent journalists to bring up Africa, mm-hmm. and to be on the right side of that issue. Mm-hmm. And once that becomes the thing, once a subject becomes an economy, mm-hmm. there's no turning back. You've opened up Pandora's box. Right. So I want to move on.
Well, go ahead. Just put the final point on that, because please. I love the way you phrase that. Once an issue becomes an economy, because what that means then is the dominant element has lost control of the narrative. And that's what's happened with Israel, with the Zionist government in Israel and Gaza. They've lost control of the narrative.
Exactly. That's really it, man. And speaking of Israel, I want to talk about this. I mean, Yemen is going to work. I don't know how they're doing it, but Israeli military bombs Sana'a airport. But this is after Yemen bombed Ben Gurion's airport. Mm-hmm. Okay, and this is what, the second time, I think. This is the second time that Yemen bombed Ben Gurion Airport, right? So this is, there we go. This is better. This is better. So Israel bombs Yemen's port in response to the Houthi attack, which was successful, which pierced the Iron Dome. And so now Yemen's pierced the Iron Dome, Iran has pierced the Iron Dome, and I can't remember, but do you remember how many billions of dollars the U.S. has spent on this Iron Dome that, once again, seems to be more like a papier-mâché dome?
I don't know how much they've spent, but they've spent a lot of money. But let me ask you this. Did you hear what Donald Trump said about 15 minutes ago?
No. What did he say?
Donald Trump meeting with the new prime minister from Canada, sitting in the Oval Office, said that the Houthis have capitulated to the United States and have said they will not attack any more ships in the Red Sea, and that the United States has agreed to stop bombing Yemen. He said this 15. I heard, this isn't something I read. I heard him say it myself, and he used the word capitulate.
First of all, that's impressive. I didn't know that Donald Trump knew what the word capitulated meant.
Well, I don't think he does, because I don't think they did.
Yeah. Hold on. Capitulate. So, which is also strange because then why would Israel bomb them? Right? Why would he bomb a port? Why would they bomb a port if supposedly this situation has been resolved? Because, like, let's be honest, the U.S. is only bombing Yemen, and Yemen is only bombing ships in the Red Sea because of Israel. So, Did Israel not get the call? I'm confused.
I don't know. In fact, let me see. Okay, yeah, this is from the Daily Mail.
Post it in the chat. Put it in the chat. I'll pull it up right now.
See, now you're asking me to do something.
Oh, my bad. No,
my bad. You want me to put the link up there?
Yeah, put the link in the private chat, and I can bring it up right now.
Let me see. You're testing the. You said the private chat. Is that this one?
Yeah, where I messaged you there. Yep, there you go.
Okay, man. And I didn't even have to call my son and ask my son for help. Because he'll tell you talk to Wilmer, and he'll tell you that PhD stands for please help dad.
Hey, look, my mom. That's funny because my mind is actually smooth with technology for the most part. I'm actually always surprised, but that's because she be on her damn phone too much. I be having. We're at the dinner table, and I gotta tell my mom put her phone. I'm like, Mom, get off Facebook. We're at the dinner table. Like, what you doing? Yeah, okay. So everybody can see this, okay? President Trump announced that he has called off airstrikes on Yemen after hearing word from the Houthis that they would no longer attack ships. They don't want to fight anymore. They just don't want to fight. And we will honor that, and we will stop the bombings, he said in the Oval Office.
Now that right there, they don't want to fight. That's when I knew, at least as far as I can discern, that he's lying. Because all the Houthis want to do is fight the United States.
I promise you that's all.
That's all they want to do. I heard Al Houthi say, please invade us. Please bomb us. I heard him say it. Please bomb us. We want the fight.
Give me a reason, basically.
That's what he said. We want the fight. So
I don't really. The only thing I could think of is that Trump is trying to get ahead of this. And if the Houthis are actually about to stop bombing, there must be something else going on where Israel has made a deal that's incoming.
Now Trump also that's an interesting point you're making, because he also said before he said this, maybe about 10 minutes before he said this, he said we're going. Where did he say they're going? Qatar. He said they're going to Qatar on Monday. He said, and we're going to announce something really big either on Thursday or Friday. He said, but you know how he always bloviates. But he said, this is going to be big. This is going to be one of the biggest announcements, like in the history of the world. We have discovered the world is actually flat. He's going to say something like that.
So it's something probably along the lines of something with Russia or something to do with Israel. And given this announcement, it's probably to do with Israel. And given the fact that he fired Mike Walsh, right? Like that happened. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and that I don't know because it's everything involving Israel. You just got to take with a grain of salt, right? I don't know if it's true that there was actually planning behind the scenes on a special not regular Signal, but a special Signal app that is specifically designed to coordinate with and for Israel. Like if that is true, And he was directly coordinating with Bibi.
Mm-hmm.
That is what pissed Trump off. That's nothing. At that point, Zionism, you can throw that out the door. Whatever pro-Israel nonsense, you can throw that out the door. What that is a direct attack on Trump's ego. And now, all that Adelson money, all that Miriam Adelson money, all that AIPAC money, that shit don't matter anymore. Basically. And there's a chance that Trump might have threatened to cut Bibi off.
I don't know that he's got him like that.
I don't know what other announcement he can make. I mean, like cut him off in a sense like
I'm going to cut her, which is where they're supposed to be negotiating. They're supposed
say it again.
He's going to cut her,
mm-hmm.
which is where I think they're supposed to be negotiating.
Yeah, that's usually where they negotiate. Yeah,
right. And so and the other story is, of course, that Israel. In fact, let me see if I can find the headline for you really quickly. Israel okay's plan for full occupation of Gaza.
See that, and so now that if Israel how could y'all okay this plan without the approval of Trump, unless you thought you were going to get that approval through somebody else by you thought you were going to get it through Trump by way of somebody else who would be Mike Waltz, and it doesn't look like that went well. But you know how BB tends to blackmail,
yes,
through announcements.
Mm-hmm.
And put pressure on those politicians that they're paying so well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Trump also doesn't like that, right? Like he's shown that time and time again. Like, bro, don't be making announcements for us. Like, I'll tell you how I feel about it whenever I feel like telling you.
Whenever somebody tells me what to tell you,
but it'll be the way I want to say it. Like it'll go.
Nobody's told me that yet, so I can't say anything.
Exactly, which is probably true because announcing the full occupation of Gaza, it isn't, once again, this situation with Gaza doesn't just affect Gaza and the Palestinians, and people constantly forget that. This situation with Yemen has put people in a financial bind. Israel is suffering economically.
Oh, yes.
People don't really talk about that enough, but Israel is suffering economically. And if this were to happen, this would benefit them because they need it. They need Yemen to stop more than America needs it. America doesn't. They haven't really been attacking our ships. People, I don't know why Trump even tweeted that out. He put out one day, they'll never attack another. The Houthis will never attack another American vessel. They didn't attack one. They have not attacked any of our naval ships, and they haven't needed to. First, so there's that. So right. I don't know why. And even Pete Heck said,
"No, wait a minute, because last week, if you remember the story about the F-16 falling off the aircraft carrier,
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was weird. That was a weird story. Mm-hmm.
Many were saying that thing didn't. Well, they were saying that the ship had to make a hard turn to avoid a Houthi missile.
Oh,
that was the story that I heard relative, because planes just don't fall off aircraft carriers.
They don't. But being ex-military, I could believe that somebody just was not paying attention. That's why I was like, could it really be with the attack? Did somebody just mess up? They've been on the boat for a little bit too long and they didn't strap it. Because that's a possibility. You know what I'm saying? You know, they say that military intelligence is an oxymoron. So but that could make sense, or I guess both things could be true. It wasn't strapped in, or it wasn't strapped in the way it was supposed to be, and they did have to make a hard turn. And maybe that was the first time the U.S. military realized, oh shit, they are not playing. They can touch us. Right. We can't, and if we get touched by the Houthis, and because that would officially mean that we've lost. That would mean that we probably would have lost more U.S. military personnel in that one attack than we've actually been able to attack and kill Houthis.
Mm-hmm.
That would not be a good look.
But that was what I heard, what I read in a couple of different places was not an accident in terms of some guy was drinking too much and drove the plane off the ship. That this was because that they were avoiding a missile.
And it might have been a warning shot. It might have been it might have been a warning shot because Houthis aren't really known to miss.
Nope.
I mean, Israel just found that out yesterday, right? I mean, if the Houthis could attack the Ben Gurion Airport, penetrate the Iron Dome, you think they couldn't hit this ship, this naval ship, if they wanted to?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like if in both of those events happening back to back, and then all of a sudden Trump being like, "Yeah, so they've agreed to stop fighting." They like because that would mean that they've just had almost two successful attacks. Why would they decide? Yeah, we're going to stop fighting.
Right. When in the 1,000 years that they've been the Houthis, stop fighting is not what they do.
Yeah, especially if there's going to be a continued occupation of Gaza.
They fought the Saudis to a standstill. They fought Saudis.
Yeah.
How many months ago? We'll say a year ago, 2 years ago.
For a while, right? They were going back and forth for a while.
No, but what I'm saying is, about a year, I'll say a year ago. Wait a minute, let me get my. They were just about to sign. It was during the Biden administration. They were just about at the end of the Biden administration. They were just about ready to sign a peace deal with the Saudis.
Yes, I remember
Joe
that.
Biden told the Saudis, under no circumstances are you to sign an agreement with the Houthis because we're getting ready to put them back on the state sponsor of terrorism list, and we can't have you do that. It's very similar to the West sending Boris Johnson into Ukraine to tell Zelensky, no, you are not signing a peace deal with Russia right now. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot. You know what? Did we talk about that on y'all show?
I don't think so. We may have.
I feel like we might have talked about because I was talking about the fact, I remember on this show talking about the fact that Saudi Arabia and Yemen making a peace deal after Saudi Arabia participated in what can only be described as a genocide against Yemen using U.S. weapons is a big deal because for a number of reasons. It could be because the Houthis have demonstrated the military capability to fight them back more than what Saudi Arabia was willing to acknowledge before, but also it shows that the BRICS powers are having a similar level of influence over Saudi Arabia as the Western powers. And we hadn't really seen, because that's not the only thing that had happened within that last year, right? We saw a lot of things happen with Saudi Arabia that we weren't really expecting, including a willingness to work with Iran that they hadn't shown in the past. So it's, to some degree, they were trying to work with Syria. Yeah, that didn't work out well because obviously, you know, the whole plan to blow up Syria's infrastructure and destabilize them had already been underway. But we saw Saudi Arabia moving in a way that the U.S. hadn't really predicted. And so for Yemen to be able to almost achieve a peace deal with them means that they have, and this is the poorest country, I think, relatively in the world, right? Yemen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Behind, so like right there, they're running neck and neck with Burkina Faso.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a new day. It looks like it's a new day. And poorest country don't mean we down and out. That's what it's not what it means.
In this chat, you've got Robbie Burns saying American ships don't go through the Red Sea much. That's true, which is why American ships have not been attacked, but they do send carrier groups in and out of there periodically. Wesley says aircraft carriers don't juke and evade missiles. That's true, but that does not mean the story isn't accurate. So
because you're still going to take evasive maneuvers if you think the missile's headed your way.
Exactly. Whether that's successful or not, I'm not saying that they made a 90-degree turn left. We know that, but that does not mean that the story isn't accurate.
Yeah. It also, once again, it doesn't necessarily mean that they were trying to hit the ship. You know what I'm saying? Like, it could have been a warning shot. I mean, like I said, they did just pierce Iron Dome. If they wanted to hit that ship, knowing that they are not made to juke a missile. They probably could have.
Right. And I'm not saying this in response to those 2 points that were just on the chat, but I think when we have these conversations, I think it's very important to understand that we in the West have a tendency to try to, I think the word is ascribe, rationale based upon Western thinking, viewing things through the Western prism. And these folks have a whole different logic base that we don't understand. So
we ain't been through it, yeah.
So we sit back in many instances and say, for example, when Soleimani was assassinated,
yeah.
Well, why hasn't Israel struck back? And I mean, why hasn't Iran struck back? And the answer was, well, when they're ready, based on their calculus, they will do what they deem necessary to do.
And they did strike back. But they struck back in a very specific way, and they even dared the United States to respond, right? They showed, in my opinion, like you said, they have a very different way of thinking. And I always use Iran as the example because I feel like that what you said is most applicable to probably Iran, Russia, and China, because they all have 3 different ways of thinking, and it's kept them in the game in some of the most powerful nations in the world in their various ways because of the way they think. Iran announced where they were going to attack, how they were going to do so, and then said, "We dare you to do something about it." Trump. People forget that part. I don't know why people forget it, because I remember streaming about it that night.
There's one other thing they said. They said, after which we will deem the issue settled.
Yeah.
And if you want to do something else, go ahead on.
Yep. And I was like, so is Trump going to take, because I was worried, man. I was like, because at that time, Trump was, and because it wasn't just that incident, it had been building up before that.
Right.
And I'm like, oh shit, this is a problem. This could start World War III. But Trump apparently is at least somebody in his circle is smart enough to realize, yeah, nah, I feel like we could probably take this as a W, because if we try to attack them, because they didn't, Iran knew where we were and where our soldiers were and were not. They could have taken out military personnel, like a lot more. They attacked weapons, they attacked bases, infrastructure. They didn't attack us directly. So, which means they had to know where we're not. So imagine if we would have responded, because they were very clear. Like, if you respond, we are also ready to respond to that too. And it won't be as judicious as this response. So that let me know that the U.S. knows we can't mess with them right now.
And there's one more. Israel struck them. And I can't remember what Israel struck them, and
Is it Syria?
It might have been. Yes, because they called. This was, I think, Biden. They called Joe Biden and they said, "This is going to be a military response. These are military targets. We know that this is where the missiles came from, so we are striking those satellite positions." Only the positions that were tied to the attack that went into Syria. And they said again, after we respond, we will consider the matter settled. And Joe Biden said, okay.
Yeah. And Israel said, okay. Like, because at first Israel was acting like, nah, if y'all respond, then we're gonna respond. And once again, somebody probably made a call like, hey, nah, BB, you respond to that one. You on your own, buck. Like, we're not getting involved.
It's gonna wind up in your living room.
Exactly. Everybody keeps assuming that. So Israel constantly tests Iran. But BB knows they can't win a war against Iran without the United States' help. Part of the reason that they're setting up shop in Syria is to prepare for an invasion of Iran that they believe is impending, right? And they know that the U.S. wouldn't even consider trying to help them overthrow Iran's government if they didn't have a base in Syria, because you need Syria to launch operations out because it's just the proximity of it. So, but even after that, even after they helped to overthrow Syria, even after they've established bases in Syria, weapons cache in Syria, the U.S. is still like, yeah, man, but here's the thing, bro. I'm not really sure we want to mess with these guys yet. Because nobody knows. When you can push somebody, guys, like let's just say like there's just two individuals. You push that man. That man says, so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to slap the hell out of you. I should beat you down, but I'm just going to slap the hell out of you. After that, we'll consider the situation resolved. You stand there, let them slap you, and then you like, all right, we're good. Because that's effectively what happens with Iran all the time. That means you know exactly what that man is capable of, and you want no parts of it. And no matter how much people try to, you just going to let him slap you like that, dog? Yep, I surely am. I really am. That lets you know everything you need to know. And that goes back to what Wilmer was saying. Iran's calculus is different. And even though the United States and other Western nations can't figure it out, exactly what their calculus is, or at least not to the point where they let us know, they do know that it's different and they can't account for it. And because of that level of unpredictability, they refuse to engage in this situation because the outcome it won't be like if you lose in Afghanistan, or if you lose in Burkina Faso, or if you lose in Niger. Like, if you lose against Iran for the entire world to see, it would upset the balance of the status quo internet, like when it comes to military superpowers, and they can't risk it.
There's another element to this, I believe, also that folks in the West don't take into account. And that is their military strategy is a defensive strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Our military strategy is an offensive strategy. So their whole thing, atomic missiles, atomic bombs, no, they've got hypersonics and all kind of other missiles from a defensive posture. So you come into me, it's to a great degree, it's martial arts. I'm going to use your energy against you. So because I'm in a defensive posture, you come into me, I'll use that against you. So they've got missiles everywhere, stored everywhere. And so they know where our bases are. And if we are too aggressive towards them in defense of themselves, all of our bases are done.
That's true. I never even thought about that. I never even considered that. That's true. It's like, because you're not only worried about Iran now. You're like, shit, they know where all of our stuff is. Because they've been spending all this time because they've been sending out their militias and arming militias around the region, successfully so, by the way, to the point where now they know where all of our stuff is. They know where we would, if we were to launch, because like they like to pay terrorist groups, the West does, to fight against rebels or the militias that Iran props up. Like, there's nothing that the U.S. or the West could do because Iran's already had the practice. They've already shown that they could win, and they've already proven, especially with that attack post Soleimani. Yeah, we know where all y'all stuff is. In case y'all, like it's almost like they were showing y'all, like, in case y'all forgot, we know exactly what y'all would do in the situation where we had to go to war with each other. So let's just remind you really quick. Bop. Okay, so y'all still want to go to war? Nah, we good. We all right. We straight.
And final point, I've been to Iran twice, and
that's cool.
And man, they are some of the most beautiful people you'd ever want to engage with. Their food is phenomenal. They are as welcoming and as humble, but you always get the sense, don't mess with these people.
Aren't those usually the ones that you don't want to mess with?
Don't mess with these people, because it ain't gonna serve you well.
What they say about the quiet guy in the class, man? The guy that or the guy that's always smiling and don't look like he got a care in the world, not worried about anybody. That's a scary guy. That's the scariest person on the planet, because that means he's not scared of nobody. Like he's not. If Iran is so welcoming, they're because I've met a lot of Iranians and they're very, like you said, they're very welcoming, they're very warm. And but it's also once you get that point where it's like, but like do not mess with us, please. Don't give me a reason. I'm not trying to be like this. Like, but if I have to revert back to the mean, I will, and I don't want to. Just leave us alone. Well, and they've already proven that too, because they've already taken back their government various times.
The other thing that controls their approach to the world is the Quran.
Yeah.
And in the Quran are the rules of engagement for conflict.
Oh, that's true. I forgot. Don't they have a rule against a nuclear weapon? That's part of the reason why they won't build one.
They do. That's right. So and see that folks have to read. No, they don't have a nuclear program, not a military program, because for them to launch a nuclear missile and create all of that, what we consider to be collateral damage, violates Islam. You can't kill innocent people in conflict. That I'm not a Quranic scholar, but that is how they view the world. You can't. They don't believe in collateral damage. That's
in the world they didn't believe in collateral damage until the U.S. normalized it. Basically,
that's why they told Joe Biden, we are responding to the targets that were responsible for targeting us. And that's all we're going to hit. We're not hitting hospitals. We're not hitting schools. We're not killing doctors. We're not doing that because that's not what they do.
Man. And that's some perspective for you guys. Because we're told that these are the savages. That's they tell it. That's what they tell us. Oh, we got to get these Muslims out of the UK. We got to get them out. They're the ones ruining our nation. Meanwhile, we're the West, rather, English speakers, are the ones who invented the phrase collateral damage.
Right.
It wasn't even a thing. That's not a real thing. You're killing innocent people. And you just gave it a fancy new term. That's it. And I noticed, and it's not, by the way, and that's not just Iran. Russia tends to live by that creed as well.
Right. And China does too.
Exactly. And it's something that I've noticed. I'm like, hold on, why won't they kill because our soldiers regularly test their patients. Regularly. Right. And I'm like, I don't ever hear no news about Iran going to work on a U.S. military base or Russia destroying, just bombing a military base in Syria to oblivion. Like nothing like that. No, ever.
That's not what they do. That's not what they do.
Once again, probably plays into the calculus part. Like, why won't they react how the U.S. would, basically, is what people want
to. We misinterpret that for weakness. Oh, we misinterpret their restraint as weakness. And they're just saying, when you remember when, I think we talked about this on the show, when the Ukraine sent those 100,000 troops to the border. Yeah. And Russia Putin called Biden and said, hey man, this is not a good idea. My response to this will be asymmetrical and disproportionate. You need to move those troops off my border.
That's the best, the nicest way to say it. Boy, I'm going to go 0 to 100. You better.
I'm about to whoop your ass. And Joe Biden got the message, called Zelensky, and said, hey, you ought to back that thing up.
Yeah, beep, beep. Hey, man, we thought he was playing. He's not playing, actually. He's not in the mood today. We thought it's one of them days that Right.
So the West...
Because Putin does have times where he puts up with a little bit more than people would expect him to.
So when the thing first jumped off, and folks were saying, well, you're not going to take over Ukraine that way. He never wanted to take over Ukraine. All he wanted to do was have you leave him alone. And I'm going to hit you hard enough so that you understand how hard I can really hit you. Unfortunately, we don't get the message.
Yep. Well, we get it. U.S. government doesn't get it.
I'm in the West.
Cause we've been talking about this forever. Since I've been going on y'all's show, and even before that, we've been saying, like, I don't know how much patience y'all think Putin has, but he's not going to allow, if it means I have to take Ukraine to protect Russia, then I will do it. Like, that's how he feels. And it has nothing to do with Ukraine, because he could have taken back Ukraine a long time ago if that was truly his desire. That's why this idea that, oh, if y'all let him take Ukraine, Poland's next. I don't know where the hell they keep getting that from. I don't know how that became a talking point. Because if he wanted Poland, he'd just take it. That's real. Like, if he wanted Poland, he would have taken it already.
That's what's his name? That's Brzezinski. That's Brzygnu Brzezinski, the grand chessboard. And between the grand chessboard and between two ages. That's all that Brzezinski foolishness. Because he's the architect of the U.S. foreign policy in the region.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Brzygnu Brzezinski, who was Jimmy Carter's national security advisor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Read the grand chessboard.
Oh, I'm gonna have to now.
Yeah, and Madeleine Albright was a Brzezinski acolyte.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea. That explains a lot. That explains a hell of a lot, actually.
Brzezinski acolyte.
Bro, and I always learn something new with Wilmer, guys. I always learn something.
In fact, they'll tell you that Zbigniew Brzezinski is the one that discovered Barack Obama.
Wow.
Barack Obama was a student of Brzezinski's at Columbia.
What?
And now this is the story. I haven't seen this written, but the logic makes sense. Brzezinski was an instructor of Obama's and liked what he saw and saw in him, this is the guy we can use.
And it's interesting how during Obama's presidency, how much people don't, I guess because it wasn't discussed enough in the mainstream media, but that region was dramatically affected by the Obama administration in ways that people don't even realize. They invested billions and billions in that region in Eastern Europe.
And who is Zbigniew Brzezinski's daughter? Niko Brzezinski, the girl on MSNBC. That's his daughter.
Hold up, that's his daughter?
Yeah. Married to Joe Scarborough.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
What? That is crazy. Man, so now that whole Russia nonsense makes a lot more sense.
And Joe,
she was like one of the faces of it.
And Joe Scarborough sings the praises of his ex-father-in-law. I say ex because he's dead. Sings the praises of his ex-father. Loved, Dr. Brzezinski. Oh, if I could just suck his toes. Oh, I mean, he loved him some Brzezinski.
Man, that explains. So now the whole, I never even made that connection, but I get now the whole, why? Because I mean, nobody pushed Russiagate more than MSNBC. Nobody. CNN was a close second, but MSNBC literally made their money off of Russiagate. And
I'm showing
Joe,
Brandon.
What's up?
Brandon, he's the guy that wrote the grand chessboard. Brandon. So anyway,
but I'm telling you, I always learn something new, man. I always learn something new with you.
Yeah, between two ages, and he's written a number of books. But between two ages and the grand chessboard, American primacy and its geostrategic imperatives. That's the subtitle of the grand chessboard. He lays out the whole why the United States has to go and break up Russia argument.
That's crazy. Let's shift gears because we're just talking about Israel, but
wait a minute.
We know
one more. Have you read Ally versus Ally?
That's him too?
No, that's Tony. This is Tony Blinken's book.
Lord, I don't know how I feel about it.
Ally versus Ally. No, but
hold up, Ally versus Ally.
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy. That is an insane name for a book.
American. Wait a minute. American, Europe, and the Siberian pipeline crisis. So when you want to understand why did the United States blow up the Nord Stream pipeline?
He already told you.
Tony Blinken told you. He told you.
Trump, you see Trump say yesterday, he's like, I think everybody knows who did it, or most people know who did it, you know. He said, I don't really have to pay for an investigation for everybody. No. I'm like, this is crazy.
Cy Hirsch already did the investigation. He'll tell you.
Yeah. Man, it's funny because I always say the only thing worse than being an enemy of the United States is being an ally of the United States.
I think Henry Kissinger said that.
Is it really? Did he really say that?
Yeah.
I had zero idea that he said that.
Yeah, Kissinger said it's bad, it's dangerous to be an enemy of the United States. It's fatal to be an ally.
Wow, yeah, that's just from my observations being alive for 36 years. Like, because everybody who becomes an ally of the United States, for the most part, ends up paying for it at some point. Yeah. And it's much more detrimental to be an ally because you just don't even see it coming a lot. I mean, look at Zelensky. Zelensky might be the perfect example of that, considering everything. Like, because when he came in, you can make an argument to some degree that he might have been considered an enemy of the United States the way he got elected. Because the story of Zelensky, as you know, is more complicated than what some people might think. And when you fast forward to Joe Biden winning, I still remember to this day, when he won, the first thing for some reason that came to my mind was, oh, Zelensky's screwed. He's screwed. That's the first thing I thought of. Because I remember in 2019, him trying to initiate that investigation with the Trump administration to root out all the corruption that the Obama administration had put in Ukraine. That's what initiated and sparked the impeachment. That's what got Joe Biden into the race. And everybody kind of like forgets about that part. I'm like, that's why for people who are curious, that's why they never called Zelensky to speak in front of Congress about this alleged threat that Trump made during Trump's impeachment process, despite the fact the whole point of the impeachment process was to accuse him of threatening Zelensky. And they wouldn't even call Zelensky. But after, when Joe Biden wins, all of a sudden Zelensky can't stay out of D.C. And he ain't got a choice now, right? He just sent generations of men to the meat grinder. Why? Because the only thing more dangerous than being an enemy of the U.S. is being an ally. So
he couldn't stay out of D. He was always at Ben's Chili Bowl getting a chili cheese dog. Going there, sitting at the counter. Hey man, aren't you over there with Zelensky? Anyway,
yeah. This looks to be some good news. HR 867, a bill that would punish Americans for supporting boycotts of Israel, has been pulled from this week's schedule. Thomas Massey talks about it. He says apparently HR 867 has been pulled from the schedule for this week. Thank you for your vocal opposition on this platform. It was a ridiculous bill that our leadership should have never scheduled for a vote. So it's a quick breakdown. I pulled up the bill. So this bill expands an existing anti-boycott law to include certain boycotts imposed by international governmental organizations or IGOs. Current law prohibits various actions by U.S. persons, individuals, or entities in relation to boycotts imposed by foreign governments on a country which is friendly to the United States and that is not itself an object of the U.S. boycott. This bill applies those prohibitions to similar boycotts imposed by IGOs. It prohibits actions include refusing to do business with companies organized under the laws of the boycotted country if the refusal is pursuant to an agreement with or request from the country or IGO imposing the boycott, refusing to employ any U.S. person on the basis of race, religion, sex, or national origin, and 3, furnishing information about whether someone is associated with charitable or fraternal organizations that support the boycotted country. The bill also requires a president to annually submit to Congress and make available to the public a report describing these boycotts and listing the foreign countries and international organizations involved in fostering or imposing them. So obviously, this bill would have been used to punish anybody who boycotted Israel. But this is actually, if I recall, and don't quote me on this, but if I recall, accurately. This was actually specifically about Israel at first, and then it actually got expanded to any country that was considered an ally of the U.S., which is more problematic, in my opinion, because y'all remember how Saudi Arabia has like that really weird, nasty habit of decapitating people who piss them off. If you were to boycott that, like with your money, it could be criminalized. You could be put in jail. So what do you think about this? And what do you think about the fact that it was supposedly taken off the table by the Republicans and not by the Democrats?
Well, the Democrats I don't think they could take it off the table because they don't control the House.
Yeah, well, but what I mean is basically they're not the ones who spoke out about this.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I remember Matthew talking about it. Gates talked about it. It's only been the Republicans who have talked about it, and the Democrats didn't even make an attempt to like build some type of coalition, a free speech coalition that could have actually been used once again as a galvanizing tactic against Trump and his administration, and been used as a tactic to help win seats back in the House, given that elections are they're going to start campaigning here pretty soon, right? For the midterm. So, yeah.
Hakeem Jeffries is on AIPAC's payroll. What's the other brother's name from New York?
Rich Torres? Is that his name?
Not Torres. His name will come to me in a second. So basically, the Democrats did not boycott this or did not call this to the attention of the American people, I believe, because they are.
Chuck Schumer?
No, he's in the Senate. There's another House member from New York. That's black, brother.
Got
you. Hakeem Jeffries and it'll come to me in a second.
Okay.
So I think they were going to sit quietly and watch this thing go through and probably help this thing go through because they're on the AIPAC payroll and paid quite handsomely, at least as far as they're concerned, by AIPAC. This is another attack on the First Amendment, and folks have to really understand that they're coming at the First Amendment from a number of angles. And and here's one of the things that I find very telling that you don't really hear a lot of people say, and that is they're using anti-Semitism as the cover to attack the First Amendment.
Yes.
And there's a economist from Yale. Let me see if I can just quickly pull up his name. There's an economist from Yale that is leaving Yale because he doesn't like how Yale has capitulated to the administration, and he's on his way now to a university in Canada. And I heard him say that this whole thing about weaponizing, I think it's Robert Schiller is his name, and so he's saying that to weaponize anti-Semitism, to use Jews as a cover to attack the First Amendment is in itself anti-Semitic.
Yes. You know, it's funny. So Kit Clarenberg wrote an article recently for Mint Press. He talks about from the United States to Europe.
Gregory Meeks.
Oh, that's the professor
congressman from New York. No. It's the other brother, the congressman from New York, whose name I was trying to remember.
Got you. But so Kit writes his articles from the United States to Europe, criticizing Israel as becoming a crime. He talks about just some of the legislation that's being discussed now and some of the stuff that's been passed. And he asked me how do I feel? Because one of the HR 6, which one was it? I can't remember which one it was, but basically that particular piece of legislation, they actually quote the Civil Rights Act to justify criminalizing free speech in protest against Israel. And for me, I was like, when I read that, and I was like, there's no way that they're actually trying to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they were. And you like, people have no idea how insulting that is. Considering that the Civil Rights Act was created to stop discrimination, right? In all of its forms. To give people the liberty to have access to facilities and equal opportunity, fair housing, basic needs like food and water. Like, you want to use that legislation to benefit Israel and protect them from criticism against the genocide of the people who are experiencing all of the problems the Civil Rights Act was created to prevent. Like, are y'all kidding? It's so insulting. And then you, once again, you have people like Hakeem Jeffries who will sit back and be like, I don't know what y'all talking about. I don't see any problems here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly insulting because, not for nothing, those Israelis don't have the same struggle as us. Because I promise you, if like Black Americans could have the type of political influence that y'all had, we would not be complaining. Y'all don't know how Israelis and Zionists managed to complain so much. Because you cannot, in my opinion, by definition, you just cannot have the most political influence in the entire world and simultaneously be the victim. It doesn't work. If as they say it in Portuguese in Brazil, não bate certo. It don't mesh. You can't. If we had a 20th of that type of influence, Wilmer, we would be like way ahead of where we are in the world right now, as a people in the U.S. or just generally speaking, right? Mm-hmm. Israel is a small country that has the most political influence in the entire world, and yet and still somehow they manage to claim themselves a victim, and then add insult to injury, get our Congress, who is responsible for creating segregation to begin with, to use the legislation or use a policy that was made to free us from that segregation discrimination to protect them who are actively engaging in apartheid. Like, it's insane to me. It's insane. The lack of moral conscience, the lack of self-awareness, or if like they just don't give a damn. That's probably the latter. They probably just don't give a damn. But to use that specifically to justify trying to squash and criminalize protests against Israel and their genocide was particularly insulting.
And add to that, and this was in Politico, this was in the New York Times, this was in the Washington Post. So I don't want y'all to, accuse me, not that I really care, of being anti-Semitic. AIPAC announced in April of 24 that they were going to spend $100 million in the 2024 Democratic primary to unseat.
Yeah, they did say that. I forgot.
To unseat. What's the word I'm looking for? Incumbent Democrats that they believed were not sufficiently pro-Israel. That's how the sister from Missouri lost her seat. The sister from St. Louis.
Oh yeah. Oh man, now I forgot her name. Lord, baby Jesus. Hold on. Why can't I remember her name? But yes, I remember. I know exactly what you're talking about. And they tried to take out Rashida Tlaib, didn't work.
Right.
They did
take
go
out
after
Jamal Bowman. They took out Jamal Bowman.
But he probably, even though they spent a lot of money there, it's funny enough, I don't think he lost because of that. He actually lost because he was just he's really bad at his job. He did not represent the people well. And they went and just got somebody who everybody in New York, or at least that area, knew.
Corey Bush.
Corey Bush. That's who it was.
Thank you, Donna. Corey Bush.
Yeah.
So but my point is,
so they didn't go after Wilmer, just so everybody remembers. They didn't go after AOC.
No.
I just want to, again, in case y'all forgot, they went after damn near every member of the squad, quote unquote, except for AOC. Just want everybody to remember that.
So here was the question. A political action committee publishes in major United States papers that they're going to spend $100 million to target the members of your group, and the group said nothing. The Democrats as a party said nothing. Cori Bush didn't, when that article came out, Cori Bush did not come out and say, wait a minute.
You're not going to defend me?
If you're going, no, but so here, to me, here would have been the play. If you're going to invest $100 million to unseat me, folks, I need $100 million of y'all to come vote for me.
Mm-hmm.
We have to, as what's his name, the Donald Trump whisperer, Steve Bannon would say, I need y'all to flood the zone.
Hey, and it worked.
They said nothing.
Once again, even worse, her allies, the ones, or at least the people that everyone would have considered her to, be allies with, because at one point they openly spoke out in support of her. AOC went out and campaigned for her, right? And when it came down to it, oh, hold on, you said you're campaigning against AIPAC now? Like I said, the craziest part about AOC to me is like how you sell out for pennies on a dollar. She the cheapest sellout that I've ever seen, my guy. I've never seen anyone sell out for so little money. Like if you're going to sell out and lose all your credibility, which she has, at least get a bag for it. She's not even getting that.
What did that brilliant philosopher James Brown say? Sold me out for chicken change. Told me you had it all arranged.
Yeah. Hey, look.
Payback.
That I'm trying to tell you, man. And she's thinking, because this is just how AOC thinks. She's calculated, but it's like in a way that's so predictable that it probably won't work. Like obviously, and I've been saying this forever. She's running for president. Yeah. The proof is in the pudding. Like when she was asked if she was going to run recently, her response was, "If we don't feel like there's a Democrat progressive enough, then it's on the table." Like damn well there's not a Democrat progressive enough, and So
like she's going to be one.
Yeah, like you're going to be you're going to be that Democrat, but whatever. But the fact that you didn't say no, I mean, also this victory tour that she's on, they couldn't manage to fight the oligarchy while Biden was in office, but now all of a sudden they're, all gun ho to fight the oligarchy, is more than enough evidence. So she believes that if she plays ball long enough, she'll be able to be the president. But like, what does that even mean for anybody? Like, what does that mean for us?
It means a lot for her.
It means a lot. I guess. Like, you get to break the
job if you can get it.
Yeah, I guess.
The healthcare is good.
She already got the healthcare though, right? I mean, I guess you get Air Force One to the hospital instead of using a helicopter to get to the hospital because she already gets the damn near the best healthcare you can get, right?
Right.
But I just want to say, as a brief aside, once again, I feel like people like AOC, y'all keep underestimating white women's unwillingness to let y'all be the ones to break the glass ceiling. It's not happening. You will not be the ones. That's not how it works. There will be somebody named Hillary or Ashley or Rebecca. I don't know what Becky, whatever her first name going to be. It ain't going to be Alexandria. It ain't going to be Ilya. It ain't going to be none of that. So I just want to be clear. But in all seriousness, what we witness, it's why the Democrats probably, if they do win any seats back in the House, it will be by a very, very, very slim margin. I don't think that it will lead to any type of like grand victory for them in the presidency because it doesn't look like they've learned from their mistakes. They're once again hoping that people will be so disgusted by what Trump has done that they can throw anybody out there and they'll win. But like we are figuring out once again that there are at least some Republicans who are willing to do with what no Democrat in power is willing to do. None. Mm-hmm. What do y'all? So what y'all? You just want to fight the oligarchy tour, y'all? You even had some of them eventually who were willing to criticize Israel for their genocide until for some reason, until Trump got in power. Then it became about fighting the oligarchy because they're not really allowed to criticize Israel anymore for some reason. And in my opinion, this is a grand opportunity, given that the people who are being primarily punished is your voting bloc. These are the students, the protesters, the people that are being wrongfully deported, or at least threatened to be wrongfully deported. These are all your people. Y'all are the ones who encouraged even these boycotts once upon a time during the Trump administration in 2017, 2018. Like, now you have an opportunity to protest him in full force, because he's directly attacking the First Amendment in the Constitution, when he literally said in a speech that he was a pro-First Amendment president. He's a pro-speech president. Y'all have an opportunity, and instead, y'all let the Republicans come out here and outperform y'all again.
My brother,
y'all don't want to win. Y'all don't want to win.
No.
Y'all don't want to win. Y'all don't care. No. And that's why when people get mad at me, I'm like, y'all get mad at me for not for criticizing Democrats all the time. I'm like, but the Republicans aren't our ally. We already know that, and it's not the Republicans that are trying to co-opt our message.
Right.
So
and it's not that the Democrats are playing to win. They're barely playing not to lose.
They're sucking the energy and the money out of every legitimate movement by doing so. And people don't there are tangible consequences to the actions of the Democrats and to not criticizing them and calling out what they're doing. Because when this election comes around, or when midterms inevitably comes around again, I told them, I'm not voting for Democrat, Republican. If I were to vote, it would be for the Green Party. But I've told people, go out, engage in organizing, mutual aid organizations, things like that. That is where you should be spending your money at, in direct action, because trying to pretend like a Democrat is going to save you or a Republican is going to save you. We ain't already read this story. We haven't already seen this. Boy, we on, it's like Star Wars. We done seen the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. Now, how many times you got us? We know how the story ends. And it keeps getting worse every time. It's not even like they're improving on the sequels. Okay. It's getting worse every time. And people still keep wanting to be like, well, maybe this time.
Right. I tell folks and I got to run because I got to do my show at 3.
I didn't realize we had been on this long. Sorry.
But I tell one of my favorite films is The Godfather. Mm-hmm. And I tell folks it's like, no matter how many times I watch The Godfather, when Sonny's in the kitchen and the phone rings, I tell him, don't answer the phone, Sonny, don't answer the phone. Don't go out, Sonny. And Sonny never listens to me. And all the times I've watched The Godfather, Sonny Corleone never listens to me. He gets in the car, he goes out on the causeway, and they blow his behind away. It's like watching The Godfather. You mind if can I post a link to my show?
Please do. I posted a link in the description too, but please post in the chat too for it to be easier for them to find.
Is that what? No, wait, that's not what I want to do. See, here we go.
We gotta call your son.
I might have to. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, put it right here. See. Well, I want to. What the heck is that? Anyway, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, it's not letting me for some reason.
Let me pull it up for you then. Hold on. Let me go ahead and get it for you guys.
It keeps telling me join the chat. Private chat.
That might be a settings thing, or you might have not.
Oh, so here's what to do. I just sent it to you.
I got it right here.
That's the day. I just sent it to you. That's the link.
Just put it in there. Good stuff. You can go ahead and get and run on if you got to. Let everybody know what you got going on really quick. But if you have anything coming up soon.
Today we're going to be talking about the attempt to silence students. I've got this great guy, Will Hugg. He's a student advisor, and we're going to be talking about the what's going on these college campuses, and with the stifling of the trying to stifle the First Amendment. KJ No is going to join me tomorrow, and you can also get me on Sirius XM channel 126 Saturdays from 11 to 2 is where you can find me as well. Inside the Issues is the name of that show. My YouTube show is Connecting the Dots. My brother, thank you so much for bringing me on. I really, really appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man. Appreciate it. Go ahead and get up out of here. I'm gonna go ahead and move you to the background.
Appreciate it.
What's up, people? So appreciate you guys for sticking around. Always love having our talking with Dr. Wilmer Leon. Dog, I used to go on their show all the time, and it was always a great time. Hilarious dude. Like I said, I always learn something new every time he opens his mouth. So it's great to have him on. For those of you who have not been made aware, tomorrow, I will be hosting the mother of all talk shows because George Galloway and his family are traveling. So for those of you who do not normally watch or usually watch all the time, that's where I'll be at tomorrow. I want to say it's 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. Eastern. I'm gonna let y'all know. I'm gonna post it on Twitter. So, and I'm gonna post it on my YouTube post for y'all to know. But yeah, tomorrow I will be the host of the mother of all talk shows, and it will be a great time, as you could probably expect. So I want to give a shout out to George. Right now, he's in Iran. Some of y'all probably saw that he did a show from Iran on Sunday. And so I think a lot of journalists right now are in Iran. I'm not really sure why, but yeah, he's in Iran. But I will be presenting from Rio. So go check out Moats. If you have not subscribed to Moats, go there, subscribe there, turn on notifications, because I will be the host tomorrow and, maybe sometime in the future too. Excited about that. We did a video, or we did an interview recently about Ibrahim Traore before all these protests and all that stuff started. We did a brief interview about it. And the clip actually ended up being so viral that it's like I think it's the most viewed clip ever from the show. So that was cool, which was great because I had a long week, y'all. I've had a long couple of weeks. I had my phone stolen because my Uber driver is an idiot. So, and then I found out after that my backup phone was broken by my 1-year-old. He chewed the top of the screen, broke it, because I guess he thought it was a pacifier, and then threw it across the room. My wife forgot to tell me about that. So I had to wait for that phone to get fixed. Then my number was not transferring over. I just had a long couple of weeks. So when I finally was able to return back to social media and I saw like the clip of him actually talking about the video going viral, I was like, oh, well, that's cool. And then I go to my Instagram and there's like 30 people, celebrities and people are trying to collab with me on that post. I'm like, what the hell is going on? What did I miss while I was away? And I saw that the post went viral and all of a sudden all these people were talking about Ibrahim. So it was a dope thing to come back to. So whenever they reached out to me to be the host of the guest host for the show tomorrow, it's like, yeah, definitely going to do that. Especially because Moats is definitely one of my favorite shows. Has been for a while. I remember the first time that I actually got asked to go on Moats was like 2.5 years ago while I was on vacation. And I actually extended my Airbnb stay because I did. And I moved my flight and actually bought some equipment while I was on vacation because I didn't want to miss the interview. I was like, yeah, I'm not about to miss this opportunity because this is one of my favorite shows. So going from that to being a guest host, it's going to be dope. Excited. Make sure y'all like this video. Make sure y'all share this video. If you did not yet, please go and subscribe to Dr. Wilmer Leon's channel. Like I said, I posted the link in the description, but the link was also posted in the chat as well. Make sure you go follow me on Twitter at Real Niko House. Follow Hotspot at Hotspot. Follow all of our Hotspot brethren, Nick, the Socialist MMA, and David Hundayan, all of our Hotspot people. And follow me on Instagram as well at Real Niko House. If you want to support the show, you can support us through Patreon. You can support us through Super Chats. The links are in the description below. Follow me on Telegram as well. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. See y'all tomorrow. Peace.